Welcome back to Whispers of Nafsiyah. This is the space where we dive deep into the heart of mental health, healing, and personal growth. This is Zainab, one of your hosts, and as a team, we're all about creating a safe, open space where we can have real conversations so all our listeners feel seen, heard, and supported. Before we get started, just a quick reminder the views and opinions we share here are our own personal reflections meant to spark thought and conversation. The advice or insights you hear come from our experiences and research, and whenever we touch on Islamic teachings, we make sure to reference the knowledge of qualified scholars. Any professional guidance comes directly from the trusted experts in the field. Now, today's episode is a big one. We're talking about the invisible load that women carry. We'll be unpacking the emotional labor that so many women face, along with the guilt, the pressure, and the mental health challenges that come with it. We're also diving into how faith and therapy can work hand in hand to help us navigate these struggles. From body shaming and adult female friendships to the everyday burdens that can sometimes feel too heavy to carry alone. And as always, if you're looking for support that's specific to your own situation, we encourage you to reach out to a trusted professional or a scholar for personalized guidance. All right, then, let's get into it.
I'd like to welcome our special guest for today's episode, Sister Berak Hussein. Berak is a registered psychotherapist with over 16 years of experience and is the founder of Serene Nafs Wellness. She's widely known as a Muslim counselor and is passionate about mental health, women's well-being, and breaking the stigma around these conversations in our communities. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
We're so excited to have you here with us today as we dive into something that so many women experience but don't always have the words for: the invisible load that we carry. The pressure to look a certain way, be the perfect friend, keep up with societal expectations, and juggle multiple roles. And what's even harder is that many of these pressures are so ingrained in us that we don't even realize they're weighing us down. We see it all the time, women feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or even burnt out without realizing why. And when we break it down, we find that they've been carrying these silent, unspoken pressures for years. Research also backs this up. So there are studies that show that women are disproportionately affected by emotional labor. I mean, I think as women, we all know this, that we take on the mental burden of not just managing our own lives, but also keeping track of responsibility for others, whether it's in the workplace and friendships or even in families. And these struggles are usually spoken about secularly, but we don't always bring faith into the conversation as well. So for many women, faith plays a central role in how they navigate these pressures. So it would be nice to be able to break this down, bringing faith into it, bringing mental health into it. And we wanted to be able to hit a few areas with you, like appearance, friendships, reputation, social comparisons, and expectations that are tied to being a good woman, good mother, good wife, good daughter-in-law. So let's start with appearance. Women are taught from a very early age that their value is tied to their looks. There were studies that showed that girls as young as 5 years old start worrying about their weight. And then as we get older, this only gets worse. The pressure just shifts. We go from being pretty enough as teens to now, oh, we need to age gracefully as we get older.
Right.
So it's like we're constantly trying to hit a moving target, which is impossible. There was this theory called the self-objectification theory, and it's about how women internalize an outsider's perspective about their bodies, and we start seeing ourselves the way the society sees us. So it can lead to chronic self-monitoring, and it doesn't become about vanity anymore. It becomes this self-surveillance that is literally linked to body dissatisfaction, anxiety, and sometimes even a cognitive decline. So can you tell us your experience with these kind of things? And is there room for taqwa and akhlaq to be able to help these kind of situations? Or is it even realistic to add faith into it?
Can I add something? It's so funny that you said it actually starts from as young as 5 years of
5,
age,
yeah.
because I would never have believed that. But now with Sakina, who's 10, I already see her saying things like that. Like she's like, "Mommy, my thighs are big," or "Mommy, I don't like how my nose looks." And I don't know where she's picking these things up from because she's so young, but she's genuinely like concerned about it.
Yeah, and
It's really scary. And I don't know if I was that way at her age or if it's gotten progressively worse today than it was years ago.
it's heartbreaking. And you
often think that it's just girls. I have a son, and it's shocking that sometimes he will bring up stuff about looks as well. And I was shocked when I heard it the first time. I'm like, you're 6. I've never thought that you would think about these things. But yeah, it shows. So tell us a little bit about your experience with this, if you don't
Well,
mind.
it's social conditioning, right? Social conditioning. They'll look and really pay attention to things around them rather than understanding their worth and value. So they externalize it. Their worth and value becomes dependent on how others see them, what others think about them, or comparing themselves to what they see on social media, what they see on TV, and perhaps other people around them. They normally would not have thought about this, like you just said, but then because they are exposed to that, then it becomes part of their schema, the worldview, and then it becomes part of their language. And then they start saying that. Because I noticed too, my 14-year-old, she's 14 now, so that is the age where they're really noticing this stuff. But I don't give her access to social media. She doesn't have her own phone. She does not have her own iPad. Nope.
I'm so worried. I'm like, 'cause I see my daughter's 10 and I see so many girls their age have it. And for a second, Hassan and I, her dad and I would be like, do we need to give her one? Like, do you think she needs one?
So you're even doing it right now. It's seeing other people and letting that influence you. So no, I believe at least 16, 17, just like the same creators of these digital devices from Silicon Valley. They don't give these devices to their children until they're 16, even though they're the ones that created it for the world, right? So it's interesting to see that. And I believe in that because it really does impact your brain development. And you've seen a year-old child that can swipe the phone in 1 year old. Like, imagine. So imagine over the years how that impacts our children. And this is just an example to answer the bigger question here. Have you taken the device away from your child? You notice their response. It's a withdrawal impact, it's a withdrawal response. So over the years, over time, they get so addicted. It's a form of an addiction, right? The more you watch, and these are what the studies show, the more you watch, the more you scroll, you're hitting the dopamine level. But it's not enough. So you got to go up, up, up. It's not enough. So this is what happens with our children, us too. Have you noticed how your brain just fuzzes out and you numb out when you're on the phone? And because the dopamine hits are not enough, it keeps going up. So that in mind, that these concepts, let's apply it now to the social conditioning of our children, women, looking at this internalization of their worth through external factors. And this is because of a lack of self-esteem. This is what I see regularly with regular women that I would meet, and I hear how they speak their language. Oh, that was so dumb of me. I'm so stupid. This is our internal dialogue that's been picked up from around us, telling us this is how we should think and how we should look at ourselves and how we should perceive ourselves. So it starts off with that, but then at the level of what you're describing here, look how you're harming yourself with these thoughts of how you look. Your worth is based on your looks. Like I said, my 14-year-old will randomly say, oh, I'm so fat. And I don't let it go. And she's a slim, beautiful, young, growing lady. And I'm saying, what is it that you're saying? Because we actually need fat to survive in our body. Right? Yeah. They're getting this from somewhere. They're either observing us. We might be saying things that we've been internalizing that we see as normal, and that's okay to say. And like I said, that internal dialogue can be quite negative because we've picked it up subconsciously. And then we model this in front of our children. And the biggest impact is the social media around us, our friends around us. They're with their peers at school 7 to 8 hours a day more than us. We see them a couple of hours at the end of the day. Good night. So that impact as well. They're exposed, their peers are exposed to so much around them as well that it comes and impacts them. So we see now, let's delve a little bit deeper into social media. They have unrealistic expectations as to what beauty standards are. Beginning of time. Women have always had these expectations put upon them in terms of how they should look. Each culture, each region, each area has its own definition of what beauty is. For example, back in the day before diet fads and tans became a thing and invasive and non-invasive surgery, Iraq, I remember back in the year 2000s early when I used to first go, the beauty standards were that women were very full. African countries also have that standard where women, when they are fuller, there's a few reasons behind it. It means you have access to resources, wealth, standards, like a socioeconomic status. But it also means you're well fed, right? Like you're happy. They say a woman after she gets married, if she loses weight, she's unhappy in this culture.
I say it about men as well. I feel like, like if a man gained weight,
They gain weight, his wife's feeding him well.
The word they use in our community is suknu soja, a swelling of like peace and happiness.
The sukun, the sukun. Yeah. So it's interesting how some cultures will look at standards of beauty in terms of weight gain, right? Now we look at Western media impact. It's quite the opposite. The thinner you are, the more elite you are in some sort. Like that's an unrealistic standard. Some people are naturally thin. And then we have this constant pressure. If only I was 5-10 pounds less. And I'm not going to lie to you. I've done that too subconsciously. But then there comes a point that that's self-hating. Realistically, God gave you this body to keep healthy. Healthy is the standard we should live up to. Not thin or you should look a certain way because you have 5, 10, 14-year-olds saying, I'm fat. And that is very concerning. And I challenged my daughter on that. Said, yeah, of course we have to have fat on our body. We wouldn't be alive if we didn't have it. So right away, reframing, normalizing, we need fat on our body. Excessive fat is not about beauty. It's about health. So as mothers, as society, we have this important, extremely important role in the language that we use for beauty. Because beauty, as they say, is in the eyes of the beholder. The eyes of the beholder these days is AI, social media, and now we're entering this new era of AI, which is defining absolute unrealistic beauty expectations of how a woman should look like, how a man should look like. And by the way, this body dysmorphia disorders, I've seen them in men as well, not just women, because of unrealistic standards that they put themselves to. We need to change the narrative, and especially in our communities, that it's not about weight loss. Okay, to be beautiful, it's about being healthy. And healthy means having a healthy diet. And that goes a long way in our cultures with fried food, et cetera, et cetera. The browner the food is, the better. We want more color. We want more green. We want more red. We want the vegetables, the fruits. You want more of the healthy stuff. So healthy diet's important. I can do a whole series on that by itself. The stress management through exercise is important. So having, some kind of routine of exercise. I think beauty is in health and toning ourselves and strengthening, like actual physical strength and sleep. So food, exercise, and sleep. These are the things that are always off track, right? And then in addition to that, the healthy impact of the influences around you. And I really dislike the word influencer because what made you the standard of the influencer? When you are putting an unrealistic standard out there, that people are supposed to follow that because they are something, these people are of some worth. Have you looked at these social media influencers in terms of the lifestyles they lead? It's all for show.
Yeah.
Most of them are for show. In addition to that, there are a few of them who become quite wealthy using social media, and they will keep using it for wealth, not perhaps for the value, right? And not all. There are some really good content out there, whether it's Islamic, whether it's mental health, whether it's nutrition, whether it's cooking, with clothing, modest clothing. That's another issue we have in our communities that maybe we can talk about as well. But there are some really good places to allow yourself to be influenced by. You choose that. But then there are some really terrible influences out there that we see how a 5-year-old is concerned about fat thighs.
I think you touched on a lot of things that I wanted to break down a little bit. First, you said about the many cultures who enjoy the fullness and how there is this standard, right? We have to appreciate that culture is placing these standards as well. And it goes both ways. There are cultures, there was a documentary I was watching, and there was this village. It was, I think, in the Hawaiian area, and the culture was very much about women gaining to the point of being obese, yeah. And it's unfortunate because that comes with its own set of medical issues.
Yeah.
And then we have the other side, which is the Western side, who expect us to be super skinny and fit and toned no matter what. The reality is women's bodies are complex, and we have a lot of processes going throughout in our body changes, even through our phases.
So it's accepting that. You said reframing it, normalizing it. We have to constantly do that to be able to break the generational trauma that's related with bodies and with body image, which is exhausting.
Yes, it can be.
And you're right. You said about men. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he is a jiu-jitsu master. And he was talking about how it is insane that men are so strict because they have to meet a certain weight goal to be able to reach, to be able to participate in a meet. And the idea was that they will either starve themselves or fully like eat so that they can gain that weight so that they can participate. And then now we have the gym fads. Everything is about going to gym, being fit and stuff. But it's also an addiction. It's about us as people recognizing that these things, everything has a fine line. Everything can go from normal and healthy to becoming an addiction. Yeah. So this episode is so focused on women right now because we do think that this is a real issue that we're seeing over and over again. We want to accept that the pressure of holding this responsibility of being able to reframe, of normalizing, it's exhausting. And then we have the double standards where men are praised for aging like fine wine, whereas women are told, you fight time. Do you have an anti-aging skill? Everything, all our skincare is anti-aging at this point, right? There is that the unspoken rule. Look young, younger than what you are, but don't look like you're trying too hard. So there's also the cultural piece.
Well preserved.
Yeah,
I've heard some people
which
say.
sounds horrible because we're not a mummy. And then there are other things that come into it, right? Different communities place different values on things like we talked about weight, skin tone, hair texture.
Skin color. Like in different communities, the Desi Arab, there's an emphasis of fairer skin being the standard of beauty, whereas it's almost very racist if you think about it, because we're so multicolored within our community. Like, mashallah, you have a gorgeous, darker skin tone. You're more fair. I'm in between, And we have to celebrate different types of beauty, whereas the fairer you are, again, it's psychologically connected to access to resources. You are not working out in the fields. The darker your skin is, meaning that you are a laborer, you are working, you are poor. That's what psychology research shows, right? So then when the fairer you are, the more covered you are. And this was the standard also in the 1900 and Victorian society, that you see the same there, that with these colonial ideas, they've also influenced psychology and well-being and so on and so forth, right? Another thing I wanted to mention about weight is access to resources. Yes, you have access to food, but also fertility. Women who were seen as fuller, wider hips, and so on and so forth through the generations and time, that has shown, in terms of what we're talking about, the societal worldview, that is seen as a woman who is fertile, who's able to have children. That was part of the beauty standard as well. And if you go back and look, like historically look at beauty standards, and they have these great AI videos of going back in time, looking at what beauty standards were, and especially with women, in terms of how they were covered before to how they're uncovered now, but also what beauty standards were. And some of these women, like you described, were obese, were really, really over the weight of healthy, but that was considered beauty. Facial hair in some cultures, for example, the Persian culture, if you look their history, facial hair was considered a form of beauty. And then there's this obsession now to be, according to beauty standards, no hair, et cetera, right? It's a lot for women to juggle.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And like you said, and we keep mentioning, it's unrealistic, but it's unrealistic because it's a standard that's not been set on fact. Like, it's not normal to not have hair. It's not normal to be stick thin. It's not normal to, you can't pick your skin color. Can't pick your hair.
Well, apparently you can change your skin color now. You can do anything now, right? With all sorts of surgeries and chemicals, then it comes to the point of how much harm are you causing yourself?
And the other part was that you spoke about colonization, right? Women are not seeing that, well, not just women and men that are setting these standards, and we as well, including myself, we enable this because we forget that this has come from colonization.
Yes.
These are not standards that were set by our own people, because our own people know that this skin color isn't yours. This hair isn't from our people. It's not going to happen. So these colonization standards that were set are unrealistic, and that's just what it is. If we saw it for what it is.
And when you look at it from an Islamic perspective, what does the Quran say about we created you for the diversity? I'm paraphrasing here. What does that mean? There's beauty in that diversity, right?
So we were talking about this. This is just one pressure, okay, that we're focusing in on. It. It's just appearance. All this is just for appearance.
Surface level.
Yeah.
And now we go even deeper down into that, the reputation and the whole need to be a good woman. That image that you have to keep up. You're constantly walking on a tightrope. Be likable, but not too outspoken. Be ambitious, but, not intimidating. And I feel like I struggle with that, It's because you don't want to seem like, oh, she's so quiet. She doesn't stand up for herself. And then you decide, okay, I'm going to stand up for myself. And all of a sudden, wow, look at her. She thinks she can say anything, say whatever she wants. And it's hard. It's a hard balance to keep, that pressure of, you need to fit into a certain mold, and that's the only mold you can be in. And I really feel that I feel community and culture just make that so much more harder.
Yeah. It's a double bind, yeah.
Only if you allow it.
It's so hard to not let it.
So let's work through this, okay? I say this from somebody who feels at this point in her professional and personal life, who doesn't allow the influence of others decide what I do. There's etiquette, that's one thing, okay? But then, and of course, jurisprudence, et cetera, a set of rules that we're held by when it comes to Islam. However, it was a journey. I think all of us in our teen years, in our 20s, and moving into the ages, of course, we're going to be impacted by, you should do this, you should do that. You're a good girl as a child. Good girl, when you get good grades or you behave or you're being docile and calm and feminine, right? This is, again, the cultural conditioning, the social conditioning, which is normal. And if you don't think about it, then you get caught up in it. Once you become aware, then you can reframe. And being a naturally observant person, which is why I got into psychology to begin with, I observe people and their behaviors around them. But also when I see clients or when I have these talks or wherever it is, training, conferences, workshops, one-on-ones, or like social gatherings and intimate gatherings where we get a chance to speak about these issues closely, you see that the core that I have observed over 20 years of doing this now is a lack of self-esteem. That's the core right there. Lack of self-esteem. Why are you comparing yourself? Because of lack of self-esteem, you're not good enough. So why is it that some people, and I still have, there's still room to grow, obviously. I'm not saying I reached that perfection. There's no such thing as kamal except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the ma'sumin, right? The infallibles. But I do feel professionally and personally, I've gone to the point where, I don't like to say, but I don't care what people think anymore. But I say it with respect. So how do I reframe that? Like, that's essentially what I feel. I don't care what people think to a level, but reframing it to say, I will not allow the influence of others to impact me here, my self-esteem. You see the difference? Because I don't care. It could be rude. It could be, you're not regarding the norms, the regulations, the rules, the jurisprudence, etc. So when I say I don't care, I'm still taking this into consideration. What I mean by that is then we need to get to that level of not allowing all of these things to impact your sense of self. Self-esteem is the way you perceive yourself in a realistic light. Whether it's beauty standards, whether it's abilities. We conflate sometimes self-esteem and confidence. They are all related, but self-esteem is about the way you perceive yourself in a realistic manner. And then confidence has to do with your skills and abilities. I'm confident in my speaking. I'm confident in how I present myself. I'm confident that I have digital skills. Self-esteem has to do with how you perceive yourself in a realistic manner. So let's be realistic, factual. There are terms like, humility, ego, arrogance, selfishness, selflessness. These are all terms related to self-esteem, right? And when we come back to the Islamic concept of balance, this needs to be applied here. You can be humble and very confident and aware of the way you look, your skills, your abilities. That doesn't mean you're arrogant. Arrogance has to do with going over. You are superior to others, etc., right? So now that we have a better understanding of self-esteem and the concepts related to it, let's go back to our core here in terms of looking at why do women have these challenges, and in terms of allowing these challenges to become obsessions or dictate how they live and how they should be because of the lack of self-esteem. When we can work on young girls to be strong, still feminine, confident in the way they speak, but not aggressive, assertive. Because like you said, if she speaks out loud, she's considered aggressive. When she wants to get something or is determined and pushes for it, she's considered aggressive. If she speaks loud, instead of saying she's speaking confidently with her voice, she's loud, right?
And I feel it's a mindset that you have to shift, but not just in women, in men as well, right? Because as mothers, so many times you are so concerned, you're worried for your daughters to do certain things because then, oh, who's gonna marry her? Like what? Like,
Standards,
she's so outspoken, she's so loud. No man is going to work because she's
there are men who will appreciate her strength. Let's look at the OG couple. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Lady Khadija, peace be upon her. Let's look at her characteristics. When you study their lives together, wasn't she the businesswoman who proposed to the Prophet? And this was a strong woman, a respected woman, a wealthy woman, a confident woman, in a very tribal and a very masculine society at the time. And yet this was the standard that, subhanAllah, that God gave us as somebody to look up to. And then you have Sayyidah Fatima, the other OG couple, and Imam Ali alayhi salam. They also set the standards in terms of how a family unit can work. So if you look at that, these women, and then you look at the granddaughter, Lady Zainab, who is a mountain of strength and patience, she also exuded strength, confidence. If she did not have that, do you think she would have been able to save Islam the way she did at the time? So these are very contemporary concepts to age-old, as long as time, 1400 years that we have these women that set the standard for us. Yet here we are telling women they can't speak up, they can't work, they can't do this, they can't do that. And then these three ladies of light embody that. They're just lit. Yeah.
I just feel like I don't like bringing culture into it, but that's the thing. It's culturally, we don't align with what Islam, like what we see.
Absolutely.
And I think when you point it out, people don't appreciate, like it's not taken very well.
It's, because they're put on this pedestal that makes you think that's unachievable. Yeah. And it is, of course. They're masoom, they're everything. But
it's something for us to strive toward.
Yes. It's about striving towards that. There was something that you said that I would really, really like our listeners to get into and to really understand. You said you're at that age where you have now come.
Not age. Time frame,
sorry.
Because no apology. Because there are some people, it's not about age, it's about their life experience.
Yes,
you have younger women embody that too.
You're absolutely right. I recorrect myself. Yeah, at that time frame where you have really come into yourself and you don't let anyone else's influence affect you in that way. I think this is something that a lot of us struggle with. I think in my 30s now, I'm able to appreciate that, not every time, but that I'm able to appreciate if I'm keeping a line there and I'm keeping my intentions as pure as I can, even if someone else doesn't accept it or doesn't see it for what it is, it's okay. Allah is great. He will handle it. I will do my part. But like I said, it's not easy. I think someone who struggles with, let's say, anxiety, someone who, especially social anxiety or depression, even if it's not even high functioning depression.
Absolutely.
These things are not very easy to achieve. So are there any skills that you can help women or our listeners?
When you respect yourself and value yourself, that comes off. I'm not here to impress people with the way I look and dress. I do it for myself. I want to impress myself. I want to keep going, whether it's physical beauty, whether it's emotional beauty, self-development. In the end, it's also my connection with God. I find that's the beauty of women. So when we talk about her being loud and aggressive, let's reframe that to her being assertive and still modest, putting your requests out there, your thoughts out there in a respectable, modest way that demands respect. Over the years, I've been called all sorts of things. Stuck up, dry, feminist, my favorite, feminist. But then when I've had scholars, male scholars, brothers, have discussions with me, and they actually brought that up, they're like, you are nothing like these words that people said about you. Confident, modest, aware. And when we talk about the word feminism, which I refute here when it comes to our Islamic concepts, we've had our female rights since 1400 years ago. Women's rights are more than in Islam than men, and in society as a whole, if you think about it and you read about it and you learn about it. So that is part of the discussion here. That's part of the framework here, is that, subhanAllah, we have all these rights here that we're not even aware of. But when you study, you become more educated, you become more confident, you're more aware of your rights. That gives you that assertiveness, that gives you that confidence to put it forward. Nobody can call you a feminist when you're following Islamic women's rights. That's part of it too. Because when we're confused, we're not sure, we can come off as hesitant or a lack of confidence in what we're saying or doing. That can look weak, right? And people are drawn to our energies as well, right? Your energy of how you put yourself out there. So how you see yourself, how you attract people, how you attract spouses, how you attract friends. People don't want to be around people who are Debbie Downers, as we say in Canada, right? Like just always negative and not looking at realistic, positive outlooks of life. And some people, they have their own trauma, their own everything. I'm saying this with awareness of my own journey, but how I also help lift women and men when we do the one-on-one therapy. Part of the skill set is, yes, work with somebody who can help you look at yourself realistically, but also in a positive manner. And I do a whole program with people when we do the self-esteem from A to Z, learning how to build these building blocks that keep self-esteem in check, because it's kind of like a triangle on top of a rectangle of growth. And how does growth occur? When you have a solid foundation with your core worth and the other solid foundation of love. Love doesn't mean romantic love, by the way. That is included, right? So growth comes when these two are pretty solid. And then our self-esteem can be, wobbly at times, but we want it to stay. We don't want it to topple. So this is part of that process as well, is really working on your self-esteem. Your core worth and value is one of those building blocks. And that core worth and value is this idea that my worth and value is independent of external factors. The Islamic perspective on that, layer to that, factor to that, is that it's dependent, that it is dependent upon my relationship with God subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you do that and really focus on that and work on that, this is where the I don't care about anything else attitude comes into play. That's the core. For me, what I've seen in my work, professionally and personally in my own growth and development. I don't let how men look at me change the way I put myself forward, because in this society, we have a responsibility of how we put Muslim women forward. We're already looked down as oppressed, no sense of style, no voice, no anything. However, at the same time, we have a lot to be proud of in Muslim women, not to be assimilated into their standards of beauty of what it should look like. We set the standard of our beauty, and that comes with our confidence, and not allowing other people's views and influences, their own trauma, their own everything, impact you, which is why we have to start looking at ourselves, appreciating what we have, acknowledging what we have, which is why I talk about sides and joke about it, because I know this side, this side looks better for me. I feel more comfortable this way. That's another word, comfort. We choose other people's comforts over our own. We allow them. Your beauty is not in what you show to the world and be judged on. Your worth is not based on that. Your worth is how you carry yourself in your relationship to God. And if you can really work on that and work with a therapist, because there's a lot in the background that can prevent people from getting to that point unless they work on the skills step by step. And I've seen that when you do work on the step by step, you can get there. And I really believe that from a personal and a professional perspective. I hope I answered that question in many layers.
So moving on to another seen pressure that women face, the emotional labor of friendships. Okay. So something that's not discussed, but affects so many is friendship guilt. As we get older, our lives change, career, marriage, kids, our priorities change. And for some of us, it feels like, maybe many of us, the pressure to keep our friendships going. Like it's our job to make sure we're keeping up with the friendships that we have. And if you don't, it's seen very negatively. I think people don't understand, I guess, that it's not easy to do at times, but you're expected to do that. Women are socialized to be caretakers of relationships, meaning we feel responsible for checking in, planning get-togethers, making sure that our friendships stay intact. And when life gets busy, we don't have time or energy. At times you can feel like you're failing and putting that blame on yourself.
Not just friendships, our relationships.
In
But
general,
in our marriage, with our children,
Yeah, so then at times, back to social media, you see those perfect friendships and then it just piles onto that guilt. But like, oh, wow, everyone else seems to be doing things so effortlessly. They have friends that they've had for so long and it seems so effortless. It's so easy for them to keep up with them. And then you look at yourself and you're like, I can't do this. And it just gives you that guilt. And I mean, at the end, I feel like it adds on to the anxiety you feel, the loneliness you feel. And it's hard.
it's hard to have the tribe. I hear this a lot from sisters, whether they're reverts, whether they're from different communities coming into different cultural communities that feel isolated and alone. Even people from the same families, the same relatives, they could potentially feel that. And there's a lot of pressure to do that. Here's what I bring it down to simply, is if they're not putting in the effort, why should you put more? Meet them where they meet you. Now, given that in mind, some people may go through circumstances that they are unable to. Perhaps life circumstances, changes. They got married. And we see that from our friends who have gotten married. It's a whole other different change. It was a shocker for me when my BFF, she married very young at 17, got married. Well, a huge shift and change. And then I noticed over the years other girls who got married, because I got married after I finished my studies, and there were some girls who were getting married before. Of course, it's going to be a change and a shift. And we have to be flexible with that, right? And some people go through mental health challenges such as depression, or you mentioned social anxiety. It's hard for them to do things and start things and so on and so forth. Then there's also personality. There's the avoidance, right? Who, they get too intimate in terms of vulnerability and they pull back. I see this in friendships too, right? There's some friends that, you don't speak to for 5 months and then you just I have one of those friends too. Salam Tuqa. Where she, we have this friendship, we haven't spoken in a while, and as soon as we start speaking, it's like we just saw each other yesterday. You have those as well. So it really depends. It really depends. For the sisters who are struggling, you got to find your tribe. A tribe doesn't mean 10 people around you. And sometimes we see these girls that have especially the ones that show themselves on social media for their weddings, the bride tribe or the team, right? And not everyone has those big groups of friends. And I always go for quality over quantity. My friend circle over the years, has always dwindled. People have wanted to be friends with me for the wrong reasons. It wasn't genuine. It wasn't sincere. What are you getting out of that? Are you getting closer to God? Again, I'm very God conscious when it comes to these things, which is why I can say I don't care. Because I put that first now, more than anything. I always had when I was younger, differently, because always hesitant, you're unsure, you're trying to figure things out. But over the years, with experience and time, that really comes forth. The friends around us, what kind of influence do they have around us? And I've heard this and I've seen people struggle with that. That changes their friendship too, not just life circumstances, marriage, children, moved away, et cetera, et cetera. Your social circle around you has a huge impact on you and how you think and interact and just the way you look at yourself, right? So these friendships, bring it down to this. I am feeling alone and isolated. Why? Is it because I can't make friends? Some people, it becomes a little challenging. And I've had clients where I had to work on the social anxiety, how to speak, how to present themselves. But then it also comes down to what good are they for me? How are they really helping me? There are some toxic friends out there constantly competing with worldly things about I got this, I got that, I'm doing this, I'm traveling, and then you just can't keep up with what they're doing, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're doing it to impress others around them. And that's why you see it on social media, the perfect family, no one's perfect. Those are fake smiles to a degree to put on out there to show people, hey, we're okay, we're good. And inshallah they are, right? However, you have to be very cognizant of the fact that what we show on social media is fabricated to the point to show you that here's where I am. Yesterday, for example, I was at the beach. I wasn't my fully physical best, the way I looked, the way I felt. And in the moment, I did a live at the beach because of the beauty of it and the grandeur of it and how I was taken back about God's creation in front of me. What I wanted to show was God's signs of the beautiful, vast strength of the ocean. That was my intent. So I showed that. However, a lot of people on social media have to take 25 pictures, or the Instagram husbands and all that. I've spoken with them, okay? It's not as glamorous as it.
Takes a lot of takes.
Yeah, and all of that. And then these really big influencers out there, and including your friends, I'm guaranteeing you, and I'm telling you, it was all fabricated for that one shot to show you that 1, 2, 3. Now, there are genuine people out there who are showing genuine things in life. They're showing their stretch marks after birth. They're showing themselves without makeup. They're showing themselves dressed.
The reality.
The reality will go through. So be very cognizant of your friends around you, how they're influencing you. You want friends, but what kind of friends? أصدقاء السوء, the friends of bad influence, which is part of our faith, or the ones that are going to get you closer to God? What kind of gang do you want around you? Seriously, because then there are friends, toxic friends who put you down emotionally. It impacts your self-esteem, the way you look, what you have not, etc., what they do and don't do, the way you dress or don't, all of these things. That absolutely can impact you. Trust. Who can you trust with your deepest, darkest secrets, right? It's a lot of backstabbing, unfortunately, and jealousy. Really be careful who you share your energy with. It's okay if you have one friend. I'm fine with the one friend that I choose to call my BFF sis right now. I'm good with that. I've never had big crowds around me. And I've noticed that intelligent, self-aware, God-conscious women will have smaller amount of people around them than a whole tribe of people.
And then I have a question. Sometimes, like the idea is to let go of the people that don't serve you, But then there's that guilt of doing that as well.
So let's work on that guilt. Ask the question, what do they serve you? What do you serve them? I've let go of friendships when they become toxic and become reliant and dependent on things that were no longer serving me positively in my life. And as sad as it was, as soon as I did, I felt this huge lift. I felt light.
How do you do that then? How do you get to a point where if you've had long friendships and they're just not working for you anymore, how do you let go of a friendship like that you've been in for so long, but it's not serving you anymore?
But if it's hurting you, why would you choose to stay there? It's like being in an abusive, toxic marriage.
But that's what I'm saying. The same way, a marriage, what are the studies? It takes 8 tries for a person, a woman who is being beaten, not just any kind of defeat, beaten to take that first move. 8 tries. That is a lot. So imagine a friendship that you're in. Sometimes it's very hard for you to even see that you're in a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
You don't even realize that this person's bringing you down all the time.
Right.
You don't realize that you're not being your best self.
Yeah.
So how can you make that move without feeling guilt, without increasing that anxiety that comes with him?
And I feel like also at the same time, even though you don't want to hurt them either, when letting go, as in there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not always.
100%. And then we live in a culture where these things are talked about constantly, right? Because they're like, oh, I used to see this happen, them and that, and hang out.
It's
now
so
I
true. Look, they're not friends anymore. Look,
Yeah.
they don't. Yeah,
But
that's
it's
so
like,
true.
it's first of all, none of our business. We do not have to speak about something that's not your business, to be honest. And it adds more pressure to that person, right? Like, how do you give up a friendship like that when you know it's not serving?
It's so funny too that, hey, how come we're not with your bestie anymore? Why aren't you sitting with your bestie anymore? No, they literally, someone will come up to you and say that, and for a second, you'll be like, oh man, did I?
Yeah.
Should I not have dropped her?
And
you second guess
you
yourself.
always second guess yourself because you come mental health, like anything else, has its phases. You'll have strong mental health some days you're feeling at peace. You're like, yes, I made the right decision no matter what someone tells me. Some days you are with crippling anxiety.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you second guess every moment, every conversation you had. I am the kind of person who I will talk about myself. I will. I'm very blessed to have a good support system. I am one of 6 sisters, and I have a brother.
You've got a tribe.
Yes, and they are a very honest tribe. My siblings are really very honest, so I'm very blessed to have that, and I have good friends like you and everyone else who are very honest with me. But that's the thing, I only have a few friends.
Yes.
But let's say when I've had a situation where I'm in a conflicting situation, and I feel like, okay, this is the time, and it doesn't have to be with friendship, with anything. I'll be in a situation where I'm like, okay, I need to take a step back now, and I will be strong, and I will do it. And my support system will push me to like, no, we've seen everything, we've heard everything. They'll be honest with me. They'll be like, this part is where you were wrong, this part is where this. But now it's time for you to make that move because it's just not healthy.
Yeah.
But the minute the other party is kind to me again or nice to me again, the questioning starts again. Now you're like, the anxiety starts spiraling.
Let me compare it to how players play with women. But look at the pattern here. They've breadcrumb you. I'll give you a little bit just to keep you hanging on. They may not be doing it intentionally, but they could be also because they don't want to lose you, right? So this is what I mean by intelligence and awareness. Take a step back, leave your emotions here because they are the ones who are guiding you. And as women, we go with our emotions and our hearts more than logic, right? So we need to take a step back, observe, reflect. How do I feel when I'm not been around this person? Oh, good. Okay. Could I have a heart-to-heart with this person and say that maybe we can work on these things, just like in a relationship, right? But if they're breadcrumbing you like players do with women when they're trying to get what they want from them, using them, trying to get something from them, friends can do that too. That's why I said I've been very careful with people who, now that I understand, I didn't get it back then because I was very much a people pleaser. I didn't want people to think bad of me. That was the time when I hadn't built what you see me now, that I feel I have. That I really wanted people to be happy with me, not upset with me, not think ill of me. And I was trying to please other people, to accept, to take me into all of this. But then it was making me feel really cheap and low. And I didn't feel good about myself. And then it was a process. It was a journey to be able to get to the point where I'm like, I have to do this. So when we look at that guilt, the guilt can hold you back, but it's also an inner voice you need to listen to. And again, take a step back from emotion, leave it there. Why do I feel this way? Sometimes you have to write a pro list and a con list to see it, right? And that's why when people who are dealing with a variety of different mental health challenges, we encourage journaling or writing things. My own therapist told me, why don't you write this out? Like, I write notes all day long. I don't want to write my stuff from it, but it really does help sometimes because what happens in our limbic system, we keep thinking about it over and over and over again and over and over and over. The reason why I keep saying over and over because it's draining. It sucks your energy. You're constantly thinking about it in a high anxiety state that impacts your body physically and emotionally to the point where you can actually get physically sick. So writing things out, talking it over outside of yourself. So when you write it out, you're getting it out here. It's no longer going around here. You almost imagine that you've gone like this and put it here. Or you're taking out of here and you put it in the middle because you don't want to dump it on people. And a lot of people advise me, don't be a dumping truck for people. And in this field, you really have to take care of what comes your way in your energy. And I've been burnt out a few times over the years because we're empaths. We give and give and give and give. And we take their energy, but perhaps they're not keeping up in terms of the friendship part. Let's get back to that. They're not giving as you are giving.
Yeah.
And it's that imbalance. That imbalance is what causes your energy to
It's so easy, like how you said, the comparison, the breadcrumbing, that like it's so easy to fall back into it because you'll see, this friendship isn't serving me. You'll make the decision to take that step back, and then maybe there'll be a time of weakness or where they need you and you want to be that person for them. And you will be.
Say no?
How can you say no? And you'll be there for them, and then it'll revive that friendship, or you will feel like it's reviving that friendship. Maybe that there's
You
somewhere
set
this going.
boundaries. You set boundaries.
It's hard. I feel like it's very hard. And then because you end up seeing, like, you end up suffering yourself because it ends up happening again where you're like, wow, why did I do that to myself? Why did I put myself in that position again when I know I shouldn't have done that?
Could have, would have is not going to change it. Moving forward will change it. For example, they reach out to you and they're, emotionally dumping on you again, whatever it is, whether they're in an abusive relationship and they're not taking the steps they need to move and you're just drained, you can't help them anymore, right? Or whatever it may be, work, children, blah, blah, blah. And you just can't deal with it that day. Like, it's not that you can't. I don't like using the word can't. Like, you choose not to because you have so many other things you need to put your attention to. So you say, listen, I love you. I care about you. I want to see you happy. I can't be this for you right now. I'm not your therapist, but here's what we can do. You know what? Let me go with you to a therapist appointment and let's work on this together. Yeah? So you're setting your
That way you're not
boundaries.
leaving them out to dry.
Completely. Now, this is the emotional dumping, but we're talking about toxic friendship. You feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
That's different. This is where sometimes you have to be a hard line in terms of, I'm sorry, I can't. It's okay. Say I can't. I'm not able to. Perhaps that person can help you, or have the heart to heart. Say, I feel used and disrespected when you only reach out to me when you want something from me.
Hard to say that sometimes.
I think
But we need to have these heart to hearts, and maybe they're not aware.
sometimes, and I don't know if this will help our listeners have a heart to heart with yourself.
And
Like, it's okay. You will be the villain for someone else. And that's it. That's it. You have to accept it.
Yeah.
You have to accept you will. And it's a very hard thing for someone like me. Because forget people pleasing. I am the oldest sibling of many. For me, I rely, like, I am a caretaker. That's just who I have always been. Yeah. Even with my friendships and stuff, my way of showing love is, I guess, through acts of service. It's who I have always been.
Love languages are very important to understanding the alpha and others, for sure, for balance, right?
Yeah. And then it was, you just have to, I think that's it. You sit down with yourself and you tell yourself, you've tried your best. It's not working out. And that's okay. If they do not understand you, that's okay. As long as Allah understands who you are. As long as you understand the intention with which you did it. And it's hard, but it's an illusion when you look at women in their 30s and older and you're like, oh, you've got this down. You've got friendship down. You've got all this down. It's a journey. It's hard. Everyone goes through it. And we have to accept that you can't be good for everyone. You're not going to be seen good by everyone.
Even people change, right? They're not the same as they used to be. Like I said, you're not good for each other anymore. It really is like a relationship.
It really
A friendship breakup is like a relationship breakup where you're thinking about that cup of coffee or this, and oh, that hurts. But I can promise you this, over time, the healing, when you work on healing yourself, you're no longer hurting others, because hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Hurt people hurt others. So you really got to work on the healing. And it's not about being selfish, by the way, because then you can be blamed for being selfish and your guilt can come back and tell you that too, right?
And it will.
But you have to take care of your nafs, yourself. Your nafs has a right on you. If it's being hurt in a situation where you have tried your best to change things and that person is not changing, not respecting, not valuing, pull yourself back, cold turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
you
the
have
hard
to.
one, yeah.
It is hard. I'm not saying this is easy, but it's something we have to face and do. When I did what I did with a friend years ago, who I no longer call a friend and a sister, I was being used because of my giving nature, my kindness. And when I finally realized that, it wasn't easy to do. I'm not saying this is easy, but when I did, I felt the lightness of it. I felt so bogged down before, and it was such a relief eventually, but it took time, as painful as it was, and the realities of it, because I trusted that person.
So, like you said, you broke it off and you healed from it and everything. Do you come face to face with them? And how do you handle something like that?
After that breakup.
Because, and I want to just summarize for everyone that we talked about placing good boundaries.
Yes.
Putting good intentions for yourself and for your friendships, and being okay with not being understood as long as you have the good intention in you.
Right.
And working on self-esteem. So now, let's say you did all these things and you've broken that relationship now, and it was a very deep, long relationship. How do you come face to face? Have you come face to face? How do you help your guilt in that situation?
I have no guilt. The
Have you come
guilt
face to
was,
face?
I'll get to that. The guilt was, why did I allow myself to be taken advantage of for myself? ظلمت نفسي. I oppressed myself for long. Because the love that I have, and we do that, right? We want to please, we want to keep it, BFFs for life. Of course, we all want that. We all want that tribe around us, right? Again, when I say tribe, it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It could be just that one person who gets you and you can tell your deepest, darkest secrets. But then facing them, and I have been lucky so far, blessed, that I haven't seen them yet, but I've seen other people related to them, or I hear news or whatever. I'm like, okay. So I mindfully observe how I react and respond, and I let it pass me by like a cloud. I sit with it, I observe it. And that's what we do with mindfulness therapy and mindfulness awareness, is that you observe it without judging. Holding yourself, your emotions, and observing it like a cloud that's passing you by. Yes, we had that. It's not about being cold, it's about protecting yourself. That's how we get sucked back in with the breadcrumbs. You have to be aware, right? Yes, this is what happened. I accept it. I do not want to go to that place of hurt. Hence, I'm letting it pass me by. Now, that being said, because I haven't seen them yet, those of us who've had to see, whether it's our ex-husbands, partners, fiancés, ex-friends, ex-co-workers, be civil. Let me give you some dark psychology tricks here to be used for good intentions. Act normal. Act like what happened did not impact you. That's grace, confidence, and class. Because when you can do that, but inside your volcano, deal with that later, absolutely. But right there, don't act like their presence has an impact on you. Unless your intention is to, heal and continue and so on and so forth, that's different. But act like it has no impact on you. Be civil, calm, and there's a psychological term we use called BIFF. B-I-F-F. What it means? BIFF. Brief, informative, friendly, firm. Because it's not easy dealing with a toxic ex anything. The emotions are turbulent. You're like the ocean I was at yesterday, just the waves are crashing inside of you and the sounds are ringing in your ears. Try and do that in the moment. Breathe, focus, remember the hurt, put that aside and watch it like the cloud. Just be biff, biff. Yeah, and that can also be in your text messages and your emails.
Yeah.
And this takes practice, not easy.
Yeah.
I haven't mastered it fully yet, but I know I've gotten to the point where I can do that.
But it's good to keep in mind. It's a good thing to keep in the back.
It's also from our akhlaq, our ethics. And it's also what the Ahlul-bayt salam Allah alayhim teach us.
Yeah.
Right? How we interact with people. If you look at Imam Ali alayhi salam, what did he request to happen and be done to the person who basically murdered him? What did he request with his akhlaq, like his behavior? I remember one shot, give him. Yeah, like, look at that. Like, do not torture. Do not. So then when we apply this heavy concept to applicable practical uses in every day in our lives, or how Imam Ali alayhi salam, and I love this example because it shows emotional regulation at its finest here. When he was in the battle and then he got spit on, what did he do? Because that's enough to let anybody become angry. The Imam, who is infallible, became angry. Validating emotions and intense emotions. What did he do? He walked away. This is something we teach. It's psychology. Walk away. And the Prophet teaches, if you're laying down, sit up. If you're standing up, sit down. Change rooms. Because when you emotionally regulate yourself, there's a whole science and psychology behind it. It shifts your energy and mood. The Imam walked away, came back, he changed his intention. Same thing here. So what does that show you here? Emotional regulation, right? Using BIFF, right? And centering ourselves. And look, this is not easy to do. This takes practice. But now that you know this, you can't unhear it. You've heard it. Now you're going to practice it. Because chemically in your brain now, whatever you did not learn and hear before, your brain has changed now from with the new information.
So what did you say again? Breathe?
BIFF. Be brief, informative, friendly, and firm. That's it. And it's not cold, it's not selfish, it's not arrogant, and that's all of that. It's being poised in the moment, just like the akhlaq of the Ahlul-bayt, how they embodied that. Because akhlaq has different terms. Akhlaq is ethics, but it also can mean behavior, how you interact with people. This is what I'm referring to here. Practice, read about these things, learn about different emotional regulatory strategies, breathing. I always have these sibha bracelets on me now. It's become a thing for the last year. This is not specifically a sibha one. This is it. I take it out and I start doing dhikr. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. They pissed me off. No, seriously, and we do this, by the way. People who have ADHD, people who have high anxiety and so on and so forth, is to have something that you can regulate yourself. A stone, a rock, a sibha, anything. Touching the floor, the ground, it's cool. So changing your emotions through sensation. You can do that in the moment when you see this person. Or if you're really sending a message, and I've done that with people too. I don't give them the time of day. You don't have access to me anymore. If it's sometimes I've done that by accident where I do kind of like a soft smile and I didn't realize that I smiled and just turn away. But I just walk away.
Yeah.
You're sending a strong message.
And that's okay to do too. That's like
it is. Now with family, we know Salat al-Raham, you can't do certain things like that. So I've spoken about this many times, and I've spoken with scholars about this. As long as you're doing your minimum basic Assalamu alaikum, that's enough. You don't need to engage. You don't need to share. Even, by the way, saying salam to this ex is mustahab to do that, because salam is to Allah. So it's okay to do that, but and I believe it's still okay not to give any of your energy to this person. Just you looking at them is energy. So you can look away. You're sending a message. My boundaries don't cross them anymore.
Can I go back to something you said? And I just held on to it because I wanted to ask the question. But having 3 daughters, and I feel like, I don't want to say I was raised that way, but I feel like I grew up trying to be a people pleaser. And it's a very hard thing to let go of.
It's draining.
Very hard.
Yeah.
But then I feel like I see it in my daughter already. And I'm like, am I doing something that's making her feel like she has to be like Sakina, who is 10? And she struggles with it because she gets, at this age, she feels very guilty, and it stresses her out when she upsets someone or she does something wrong. And I don't know what to do. Like, how do you do it so you aren't, because it happens from a young age, and then it's hard to let go. So are there things that you shouldn't focus on, or things that you should focus on? Or how do you do it where you're not growing up trying to please the people around you? Because I feel like it's a fine line, because you're told, be respectful, be kind, like go say salam to everyone, or you have to, like you're a clock. But like, it's very hard to,
These expectations.
yeah, to me, not to cross them, and right now you're people pleasing, where you're just trying to make everybody happy around you all the time.
It's very hard, I think, especially when you say this in brown cultures, in minority cultures, to place boundaries.
Yes, it is. It's not easy.
Boundaries versus respect. And we forget that the respecting of ourselves, it's put on the side.
Self-respect is huge. Like I keep saying, your nafs has a right over you. It has a right over you. And it's really interesting to see how our behavior can impact our girls, like you're saying. I've heard my daughter say, my bad, my bad. I don't like that internal dialogue. I tell her, Mama, you don't need to say it's my bad. Be aware of what you're doing to change it. But that internal dialogue, where are they getting this from? Perhaps from us, perhaps from friends, perhaps, they're seeing things on social media. Absolutely. The trends of how to speak, the lingo, it can shape your personality very young, can shape your wellness, can contribute to being depressed. It can contribute to being highly anxious in social situations. There are norms and social expectations, like you said, of saying salam and saying this and doing this, that. But some people are just, they have that level of anxiety, or they're, I wouldn't say antisocial, but they're not as engaging with people. And the introverts, don't forget, that also has a play with it. And also your love language, like how you show care and love for others, but you're burning yourself out, right? So that's why I say BIF can also be applied here. You can still be brief with somebody, you can still be informative, you can still be friendly and firm, shortcut, like keep it short and go, right? You choose where you put your energy. And watch your internal dialogue. Because I think when we talk so much about our internal dialogue, we're not realizing how much it's impacting us, how much it's shaping us. And especially our young girls, it becomes part of their lingo. Like we said, it becomes part of their schema, right? It becomes part of how they develop, how they interact with their friends, how when they get into friendships later on in relationship, marriage, and their colleagues or whatever around them, that internal dialogue is absolutely going to shape the way they think and impacts their self-esteem. And that whole journey that we've been talking about, you asked me, well, how did you get to the point where you're at now, where you are able to not allow others influence you with the not lack of care, but being highly aware? I choose these energies to impact me. I've gotten to the point now in my professional and my personal life that I can detect toxicity with the way how my body responds. And subhanAllah. My stress response has always been stress and anxiety.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about this.
I feel it in my stomach. I overthink. I become shaky. I become highly anxious, or I'm talking about it over and over, almost obsessively. And I need to talk to somebody to talk it through. That's how I deal with it. That's how I can cope with it. Some people are not able, they keep it in. I need to talk about it. And I've noticed that over the years, whether it's professionals that I've had to deal with, or organizing conferences, organizing events, and there are different personalities that you're dealing with, right? And sometimes you have to filter, you have to work on managing and dealing and coping with things that is just like, hold on a second, I don't feel good. I don't feel healthy. Like you're letting their toxic energy affect you here. And then you're no longer being able to reach your full potential and getting the task done. I can detect narcissists like this now because of how my body reacts. We have to learn also to trust our inner voice, that we hone it over the years, so to speak. It was only until the last years that I learned that, right? To really trust that inner voice, your gut. Trust that and reflect on it. Like, you gotta listen to your body's reaction to things around you, because it's trying to tell you something, that this is not okay for you. And like we said, boundaries are really hard to put within our cultures, but if your body's telling you something and your mind's telling you, listen to it, work with it. But sometimes we do need to go through experiences. We talked about how abused women will take them 8 tries before they leave. They had to go through it before they left. Heartbreak. Any of you that had heartbreak, broken hearts before? I have become a better healer in my work after experiencing heartbreak. I had to go through it to learn the lessons, especially in my line of work, to be able to help other people, to have empathy and compassion and awareness. So sometimes we have to go through things. And instead of saying things like, why God? Why me? Reframe it to, what do you want me to learn from this? Because you are being helpless, victimizing yourself, and you're also going to be dumping on yourself so much guilt and negative energy. Why me? Sorry, why you? You're not special. Like, we're all of us in this life together where we're going to have these challenges in life, right? It's how you choose to cope and deal with it. So when we go through painful experiences, and research has actually shown that it actually biologically changes us as well. Heartbreak, have you read about the articles where they say that heartbreak is actually physically painful? You're actually feeling it. It's also related to the dopamine hit we mentioned earlier, the hormones that are involved. See, oxytocin is, the levels are not the same anymore, and you want that feel-good love hormone, right? That's why you physically feel it. But sometimes we have to go through it to learn how to protect ourselves in future relationships, marriage or friendships.
And to remember, right?
And to remember.
Like, I think every time I've been in pain, emotional, physical, whatever it is, and I'm sure it's the same for everyone, it reminds you, do you want to be back in that?
Senchi. It's like the child that put their hand on the stove. We hope they learn from it, unless they are the children and there are people who actually don't feel physical pain.
Yeah.
Right. But we want to be aware of the child that actually feels the pain. Do we want to go back to that hurt?
Yeah. So you have to respect your body, your mind. And in speaking about this, and you said that you can feel narcissism, you can feel all the things, right? I was talking to a professor once, and we were talking about anxiety, and she was talking about, I teach my clients, embrace your anxiety. And for what it is, which is telling your body, I don't like this situation. So it's your gut feeling amplified.
Yeah.
She's like, it's telling you, stay away from this. So it's very hard to accept it, because anxiety is not as simple as that. We know this, but it is a good way to look at it.
Yeah, reframing it.
Yes.
Because with anxiety, there becomes physiological responses. Heart rate goes up, little, twitching and shaking. And so once you're able to regulate the physical response, use the energy of that flight or fight response, like you said, listen to the amplified response of your gut feeling, use it to your advantage to help you get through it. It's like the expression facing your fears, conquering your fears. I find a woman who can face, a woman, man, or anybody, but where our focus today is on women, that if she can face her darkest fears, her darkest, deepest anxieties, and all the things like that she has faced so far in her life, she does become this strong, assertive, confident, God-conscious, because she has put God in front of her. She had put her tawakkul, her reliance on God as opposed to others. Now, God sends people to help you, absolutely. Hence us therapists, right? When people are like, but you don't have enough faith, You just got to read more Quran and du'as. And no, but God has also given us medicine and health and et cetera, that we are in awe of God's power, right? And that's having that God consciousness and taqwa, being aware of God's strength and power as opposed to fear, which can be negative. Is that because I have put all of that in Him, I don't fear these things anymore. I don't fear these worldly things that can hold me back. You see the power of that when you actually put all of that energy into Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that full reliance, He will open the universe for you. And I'm speaking from personal and professional experience through my own journey. When we go through these painful experiences, there's good in it for us as well, our growth. You can't grow without going through these difficult situations in your life.
I think it's brilliant to hear, and hopefully we can all retain it. But as we've spoken over and over again, that social media bases our lives and it puts it into a comparison trap.
Yeah.
Whether it's parenting styles, careers, home aesthetics, look, friendships, we're constantly measuring ourselves against a highlight reel. There was this whole theory, right? The social comparison theory. And behind this theory was that our brains will naturally assess where we stand in comparison to others. So the problem is that we don't realize that social media exaggerates this gap.
Yeah.
Right? It makes us feel like we're always behind in some way. So what are some practical ways that we can stop this comparison?
About how we compare ourselves, right? And how we're constantly not good enough and so on and so forth. I really reiterate again, put God in front of you. When you put God in front of you that way, it really erases everything else. Who is this person that I'm trying to impress? You know who you need to impress? The person in the mirror. You know who you need to be better than who you were yesterday when you were at a low point, for example, right? That's how you compare yourself. Who I was before at my low point, or where I was when I wasn't at my, full spiritual, or so on and so forth. That's what I'm going to compete with for myself. But with self-awareness and compassion, because sometimes we really beat up on ourselves. And I know a lot of people have the identity crisis, or, always struggling, especially as Muslim women. And if you're being very specific, Khoja women, me an Iraqi woman, a Canadian, American, and there's so many layers to our identities that it hits us from all angles to try and fit in and please and all that. So when we're comparing, there's so many layers there. And we can get overwhelmed like this feeling. When we're doing our comparison, come back to your intention. Why do you need to do what she's doing? What's the point? Who are you trying to please? Impress yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror like we were saying earlier. I am beautiful as I am, alhamdulillah, with what God gave me. I have something that perhaps other people wish they could have, right? Even in our imperfections, doesn't mean I'm vain. It means I'm aware, right? And if people want to see it as vain, like you said earlier, you can't please everybody and you might be a villain or you might be a vain person or whatever. As long as you know your intentions with God. Ladies, when we do our comparisons, bring it back to that every time. And for those of us who struggle with it, or let's say haven't gotten the enlightenments that I was able to get through my journey and I'm still learning through it, work with a therapist. I've worked with a therapist even though I'm a therapist. You get stuck in your own world with your emotions. You can't think and see clearly. And so when you get that outside help with somebody who is independent, third party, has the skills, can look at things and give you insights and tools and strategies like I'm trying to give right now, that can perhaps help you in your journey to God. Don't let this mess of this fake world around you. Like I said, there are genuine things on social media that you can learn and benefit, but our houses don't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to be neat and tidy all the time. There was a time where I felt I needed to do that. I was burning myself out. There were my daughter's stickers all over the floor and her toys. And then I read an article that made me stop that. And it said, the house is not always clean. The house is not always perfect. The house is not always, everything in place with your children. And then the stickers, that's what got me, because she has stickers, that's the point, had stickers. Because those stickers, the shiny little butterflies and flowers, they're no longer there anymore because she's grown older. Treasure those moments, right? Because every phase that comes, you're gonna miss that. It was a bad phase, alhamdulillah, being grateful, I'm no longer there. And I'm so grateful for many things that I'm no longer there for. Now it's anime stuff, Every stage, there's a different stage, right? But so bringing it back again to that comparison is, we have to have self-compassion for ourselves as well. When you're comparing, you're really being mean to yourself, right? Encourage that nafs. Be kind and loving. Just like you would to somebody you love, you need to do that to yourself, because nobody's going to give you that love except for you. That's also part of why I am the way I am today. Because I had standards and expectations of people. And when I finally took a step back and accepted, now I have requirements, not expectations and standards. I accept this is where you are at. I accept you can't throw me the birthday party or decorating your locker, which was a painful experience in high school, that I did for you. Intention, why am I doing this? Am I doing it to get it back? Or am I doing it because it feels good and I want them to feel loved? Oh, they feel loved, but they can't do it for me. Again, comparison. They can't do it for me. Who's going to do it for me? I'm going to do it for myself. When it comes to toxicity and healthy boundaries, etc., it has to be requirements, not expectations and standards. You will always be disappointed. Only him we can rely on, even our partners and friends. And I learned that over the years from stories of friends around me. Even my husband, I don't rely on him. He's there in my journey to God, absolutely. But I cannot rely on him. 100% is only Allah. I find that to be very powerful as well when it comes to comparisons, because this is where we can really put our reliance, instead of constantly comparing and having those standards and expectations where we're going to be disappointed. He's the only one we're not going to be disappointed with. Expect and accept. This is a part of life. You will be disappointed. You will be hurt. Things will change. And this goes with Dr. David Rico, which is a huge part of my journey, is that the 5 givens are, number 1, everything changes and ends. Number 2, things do not always go according to plan. Number 3, life is not fair. 4, pain is a part of life. And 5, people are not loving and loyal all of the time. And I think this really sums up everything that we've chatted about today. Hence why I use the word requirements now. These are my boundaries. And encouraging other women to set requirements, not standards and expectations. You will be hurt. Requirements are, this is what I'm giving, not transactional. This is about energy, because we give and do and we don't get fulfilled, and because of the expectation, right? But we're going to do for the sake of Allah. How many of us have, when we've fully done that, how amazing does it feel? But even then, there are boundaries with that. Because if you keep on doing and doing and giving to people who are unworthy, okay, and who are not valuing and who are taking and being rude and mean and etc., it can hurt after a while, even if you're doing it for the sake of Allah. Does this not sound like a toxic relationship? Yeah, right?
There's no respect.
There's no respect. So set those boundaries for yourself that you are still going to do and give in the name of Allah, but also be aware of how much you're putting out there. Because when you accept these 5 givens, you're protecting yourself from pain, of things that God will keep showing you again and again and again till you learn. You're going to keep experiencing that pain again and again until you learn the lessons. He will keep sending the same types of people. He will keep creating the same scenarios in our lives until we learn those lessons. And I find these 5 givens really help.
That's amazing. And I think one thing that I would add that would helped me, and I think would help a whole bunch of people, is focus. Yeah, like you said, the way you keep Allah at the forefront, keep those who matter at the forefront.
Santi, exactly.
You have your family, you have your close people, and that's it. That's enough.
You don't need
Focus on that.
You don't need the
Quantity, right? You said
quality.
Yeah.
Quality. Honestly, sometimes that one friend, that one my person is enough. You can still have friends and all that, but maybe you have levels of what you give and do and connect with them. And it's okay.
Energy, right?
Energy, my
Where's the
goodness.
energy to give this much? Like if I'm getting depleted elsewhere and I get depleted so quick,
We give so much.
no, then I'm not giving it to the ones who matter the most, right? The ones who I owe the most to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a good way.
That's part of your requirements as well. Who do I give this energy to? Who do I choose? You know, the words choose and requirements and all of this. This is part of awareness. When we go into it blindly, just do it. That's when you burn out. That's when you're harming yourself and others. When you're not taking a step back, and our own faith, subhanAllah, teaches us that tafakkur and tadabbur, that reflection and really thinking and taking the steps, and right. But then sometimes in the moment, it's a flight or fight response, and it happens. It's okay. But step back and, like the cloud, the mindfulness cloud, to watching it go by, what can I learn from this? What does God want me to learn from this? Because that's where growth comes, instead of why me. There are people who are so stuck in their situation, refuse to work on themselves. They become in that category of static stupidity that harms themselves. So why do I say stupid? Because I look at it and I'm seeing they're repeating and doing exactly what the definition of insanity is. You keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And because they're so emotionally engaged and involved. So that's why I say take that step back, stop, reflect, think, what can I change? That's where your growth is going to happen. And sometimes medication can help, or looking at emotional regulation and putting plans into place. And sometimes it needs to be written down so that we can learn. I'm a learner that way. I see and I have to write in order for it to stay here.
And I'd like you to take a second, I feel like, because with your experience, your background, that you encourage this, right? Like because I feel like it's not something encouraged in our community.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is part of the podcast. Our first episode was about mental health, the stigma,
Yeah.
the stigma behind receiving support, going out to do these things for yourself, for your own well-being.
Absolutely.
And you've done it. And you said you've done it personally, and you've helped others do it, and it works. It helps, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I was stuck in certain situations in my life that were very highly emotional, life-changing, intense and dramatic, that were hurting me, even if I'm a therapist, does the doctor not need another doctor? So same thing, like even a therapist, I mean, most therapists do seek therapy, by the way, right? And it's encouraged when we're students to go to it. Yeah. Because then you know how the person that comes to you, what they're going through, right? But sometimes you need it. And I've needed it several times in my life. And alhamdulillah, I can say that's where I was challenged to really work on changing things internally, really, really working on things. And through their wisdom, I was able to share that wisdom in others. There's a really beautiful quote by Imam Ali alayhi salam when we talk about seeking help, because we have this stigma that you're weak. It means you don't know enough, you're not good enough, you're not relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. And like I said earlier, God sends you and gives you things for that. And the Imam says, surely the hearts and minds get tired just as the bodies get tired. So seek out new wisdom for them. That's a really powerful one. Another one I really like, and it has to do with wisdom, and I love this again, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he encouraged seeking counsel, saying, a person who consults others shares in their wisdom. When you seek therapy, you are sharing in their wisdom. You can now share it with others.
And I think that's something that we need to really talk about, is that the idea that you have to take that action. So I hope that encourages people to really go out there and push themselves to do it, as hard as it is.
It takes courage to ask for help, As women, we have to learn how to delegate, ask for help, support. Doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you're a superwoman who is extending her strength to others to doing these tasks, but also getting help with it. And it creates community. It creates womanhood, sisterhood, support and help. Absolutely.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. A huge thank you to Sister Berak for joining us and for sharing her incredible insight, wisdom, and compassion. Your words have truly given us so much to reflect on, reminding us that while the invisible load women carry can be heavy, it doesn't have to be carried alone. And through faith, self-awareness, and community, we can learn to release some of that weight, show ourselves some grace, and walk this journey with a little more lightness. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in and for being part of this growing community of healing and honesty. Don't forget to share this episode with someone who might need it, and follow Whispers of Nafsiyah for more conversations that nurture the mind, body, and soul. Until next time, take care of your heart and keep whispering kindness to your nafs.